Now I want to go to the US. And it's almost 3.5 years now since Russia invaded Ukraine. Now, work towards ceasefire there continues with US President Donald Trump speaking with Vladimir Putin again in the last 24 hours.
We just spent 2.5 hours talking to Vladimir Putin, and I think some progress has been made. It's a terrible situation going on over there. 5,000 young people every single week are being killed. So hopefully we did something.
And here's Russian President Vladimir Putin.
We have agreed with the President of the United States that Russia will propose and is ready to work with the Ukrainian side on a memorandum on a possible future peace accord, defining a number of positions such as, for example, the principles of settlement, the timing of a possible peace agreement.
Yeah, so I put it to our US analyst Kristin Tate that the President's intervention here sounds encouraging and looks like leading to meaningful ceasefire talks.
Yes, I think so too. This is a positive step forward. Do I think this will all be over imminently? I hope so, but no, this is likely just a step in the right direction. As I've been saying since Trump took office, this issue is much more nuanced and complicated than I suspect he believed when he was on the campaign trail. But yes, this is a great step in the right direction.
Yeah, we'll keep on top of that one. When it comes to US politics, the big news this week has been all about the former President Joe Biden. The sad news that he's suffering quite advanced prostate cancer. Tell us how the American public and media have been reacting to this.
Yes, so we were told that he has stage 4 terminal prostate cancer. The media is acting completely shocked, or they were at least for about 5 minutes after this news broke. But I just wanted to underscore the point here. I mean, there is a real chance that the former president of the United States, Joe Biden, had terminal cancer during his presidency, and we, the American people, were lied to about it for years by his wife, Jill Biden, by his doctors, and by his handlers. And if this is the case, if they lied about that, Chris, this would make this will be one of the biggest political scandals in American history. And the media seems to have no questions about it. They're completely disinterested in this scandal.
Well, they've always been disinterested in the state of Joe Biden. Just to put some context around this, of course, presidents have regular medical checks and they do an annual one where the results are made public. Now, any bloke over the age of 50 knows that's going to involve tests for prostate cancer. And yet we heard nothing about this, but it's now an advanced cancer. And this, of course, comes on top of all the revelations ex post facto about Joe Biden's mental state. So here's what President Donald Trump has been saying about that just in the last 24 hours.
There are things going on that the public wasn't informed, and I think somebody's going to have to speak to his doctor, if it's the same, or even if it's two separate doctors. Why wasn't the cognitive ability, why wasn't that discussed? And I think the doctor said he's just fine, and it's turned out that's not so.
He's absolutely right, Kristin. It needs to be, all these things need to be chased down. This would be scandalous if it was the other way around, of course.
Of course, yeah. It's almost impossible to believe that Biden went from a totally clean bill of health 6 months ago when we were told he was completely fit to be president, to having stage 4 terminal prostate cancer today. Any expert will tell you that's a very slow-growing cancer that's easily detectable. The cancer at this point has spread to his bones and will likely eventually kill him, maybe in a few years, maybe sooner than that. But look, if he had been elected in November, there is a very significant chance that Kamala Harris likely would have been installed as president sometime in the next 4 years. And it makes you wonder if that was the plan. You know, the Democrats were going to get their first female president by doing whatever had to be done to get a dementia-ridden cancer patient in office and then just install her when he passed away. And if that's the case, if there were people who knew about this for years and lied about it, those people need to be imprisoned. We need to find out who those people are. Congress needs to, investigate this thoroughly, put everyone involved under oath, and hold the people accountable who lied to the American public about this.
Well, this is not an outrageous theory anymore, Kristin, of course, because even the leftist media are now claiming that they were lied to about President Joe Biden's mental state. The book that we talked about in our program last night, Original Sin, by Alex Thompson and Jake Tapper, they're saying that they were fooled by the White House. The White House was thinking about putting Joe Biden in a wheelchair. They weren't told about it. They were convinced that he was okay. I think this is nonsense because we could all see the state of the president. You and I were talking about it for years that he wasn't up to the job, but nonetheless, Jake Tapper says he and the rest of the White House press corps were fooled. Here's some of what he's had to say.
We spoke with more than 200 people, almost all of whom were Democrats, and almost all of whom wouldn't be honest with us or wouldn't be candid with us until after the election. And then after the election, we found out all of these things that when you looked at what was going on with President Biden at the time, it probably doesn't surprise you the extent to which he was deteriorating. But now we have anecdotes and facts about what was really going on behind the scenes.
Oh, come on, Kristin. They found out all of these things after the election. How convenient.
Right. Yeah, you think this book would be coming out if he had been elected or if Kamala had been elected in November? Nope. But look, this book by Tapper comes out in just a couple days, and I do find it a very strange coincidence that the Biden team would make this announcement about his diagnosis right now. It almost makes you think that they are trying to garner sympathy for him with the American public before the release of this book. And if that's the case, it is diabolical. I mean, this is just deplorable stuff. And the big question that the media doesn't seem to care about at all, but the most important question is, who was running the country for the last 4 years? We know it wasn't Joe Biden. Who was it? Whoever was running the country is still out there. We deserve to know who was making decisions while Joe Biden held the title of President of the United States. It's terrifying that we don't know who was at the wheel.
Spot on, Kristin. Who was running the country and who can ever trust the White House press corps ever again? Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Chris.